My name's Emily, and I'll never forget the night my sister's boyfriend called me jobless in front of everyone. The laughter hit harder than the word itself. What followed made sure no one ever mocked me like that again. Has something similar ever happened to you? Share it in the comments. The chair scraped back as I stood. Carlos kept grinning, pleased with himself. No one interrupted. No one corrected him. That silence said enough. In the parking lot, the lights blurred as my pace quickened. The laughter stayed behind, but its weight followed all the way home. The drive passed without shape or sequence. By the time the car stopped in the driveway, my jaw throbbed from clenching. At the stove, vegetables moved steadily across the cutting board. "You're home early," Mom said without looking up. "How was dinner?" No response came. She turned. "Emily?" "It's nothing." Her eyes narrowed, then dismissed it. "You're not that sensitive. Probably just a joke." And that landed harder than Carlos's comment. My sister appeared, impatience already set. "What's going on now?" "Nothing," came the answer, short, closed. She scoffed. "Why do you always make things dramatic?" Drama. The word people use when discomfort feels inconvenient. A phone vibrated on the counter. Work. An urgent project. 1 hour to get there. The call ended without room for discussion. Another buzz followed. "Carlos. Just a joke. Don't stress." Nothing back felt appropriate. Upstairs, the hallway narrowed. Footsteps followed close behind, Mom's voice tightening. "Where are you going? Dinner's almost ready." "I need a minute." She moved closer. "What did he say?" The truth slipped out. "He joked about me. Everyone laughed." A sigh answered. "So? That's it?" One hand waved the issue away. "You can't take everything so personally." "That's not the point." "It clearly is," she said. "You always do this." Fingers closed around an arm as I turned. "Stop," she insisted. "You're overreacting." The grip broke free. "I don't have time for this." The door shut between us, harder than intended. A bag dropped to the floor. The bed took the weight. Tears came and went without ceremony. Crying wouldn't fix what no one wanted to understand. A knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. "Emily, can I come in?" My sister's voice came through the door, and I groaned inwardly. I didn't want to deal with her right now. "Go away, Leela." The door creaked open anyway, and she stepped inside, leaning against the frame. "What happened?" she asked, arms crossed, clearly judging me. "Why are you acting like this?" I sat up and wiped my face. "I'm not acting like this, Leela. Just tired of being treated like I don't exist." An eyebrow lifted. "Invisible?" "It was a joke, Emily. Get over it." That was all. Flat, detached, nothing new. "I'm not asking you to understand." The words came sharp. "Just need space." Her eyes rolled. "Fine, but don't expect me to keep chasing you every time you get upset over something silly." Footsteps faded down the hall. The door stayed open, but the message was clear. Anger flared, brighter than before, then settled into exhaustion. No point explaining. It never landed. This wasn't about a joke. It never was. It was about how little weight my presence carried. The phone buzzed on the nightstand. "Carlos." "Hey, Emily. I'm sorry about earlier. Want to meet up and talk it out? Didn't mean to hurt you." The screen stayed lit while seconds passed. An apology, maybe? Or just another attempt to smooth things over? Nothing he could say would undo the moment. A short reply went out. "I'm fine. Don't worry about it." The phone was shut off before anything came back. Another vibration followed almost immediately. Work this time. "Emily, we need you at the office," my manager said. "There's an issue with the project. Come in now." The call ended without negotiation. The phone lit up again. Carlos, telling me to relax, not to stress. It stayed unanswered. By morning, the weight of the night still clung. A buzz cut through the quiet of the kitchen. An email from HR. The subject alone tightened something in my chest. "Dear Emily, we are writing to inform you that there will be changes to your role within the company. Please come to the office for a meeting to discuss these changes." That was it. No context, no reassurance. Questions stacked fast. Was this fallout from turning down the promotion? A quiet demotion? Something worse? The message vanished with a quick delete, though the uncertainty didn't. A knock followed soon after. "You haven't eaten," Mom said from the doorway. "What's going on today?" "Nothing," I said, tying my shoes. "I have to go in." She lingered. "You should eat something. You can't function like this." A nod answered her, non-committal. Explaining would only turn into another dismissal, another reminder that priorities were never mine alone. The phone buzzed again. Carlos, still pushing, still minimizing. It stayed on the counter as I walked out. Traffic dragged. Every red light stretched the tension tighter. This could be an opening, or the beginning of being edged out. At the office, the mood was heavy. Greg waited near the elevator, expression stripped of its usual ease. "Emily," he said, "come with me." The meeting started. The hallway felt longer than usual. Each step made the question louder. The conference room held several members of leadership. Conversations stopped as I entered. Greg gestured to the chair across from him. "Emily," he began, voice measured, distant. "We've been reviewing the department's direction. Given recent performance evaluations and your hesitation about the promotion, we're adjusting your scope." My expression stayed neutral. Inside, everything stalled. "Your position remains," he continued, "but we need you to take on leadership in additional areas, more responsibility." A pause. "We believe you're capable of handling it." The words landed carefully. Not a punishment, not a reward. Something in between. And nothing about it felt optional. More responsibility? I had just turned down a promotion for the very reason that I didn't want more. "But," I stammered, trying to wrap my head around what this meant, I thought my position was fine." Greg's eyes narrowed, like he was watching me carefully. "We need someone who's committed to growing with us. We need to see that you're willing to take on more. If that's not something you want, we'll have to reconsider how your future fits in with the company." A lump formed in my throat. What was he saying? He was pushing me, wasn't he? This was my chance to prove myself. But was I even ready for it? Was I willing to change my whole approach to my job? Before I could say anything, Greg went on, "We'll send over the official documents, and you'll have a week to think it over. But this is the direction we're moving in, whether you're on board or not." Shock held me in place as his words settled. Readiness didn't matter. Wanting space didn't matter. Walking away wasn't an option. Not now. Letting this slip would cost more than pride. Greg's email sat unopened for hours, waiting. When it was finally opened, the message was blunt. A new contract, clear terms, sign or leave. The question wasn't about paper. It was about what would be lost either way. At the desk, the document stayed centered on the screen. Fingers hovered, unmoving. Signing meant aligning with the direction I hadn't chosen, surrendering control piece by piece in exchange for promises that weren't guaranteed. A phone vibrated. "Mom, I haven't heard from you. Are you okay?" The message stayed unanswered. Explaining would only turn into reassurance. For her, not for me. The contract filled the screen again. Time slipped by unnoticed until the door creaked open. Lila leaned in, expression casual, eyes sharp. "You okay?" A glance, then back to the document. "Fine." She didn't leave. "You've been off lately." "Work." That's not an answer. She stepped inside. "You're still hung up on that promotion, aren't you?" Teeth pressed together. "It's not that simple." She scoffed. "It really is. You take what's offered and move forward. Why fight it?" Eyes closed briefly. "You think this is fighting?" Arms crossed, weight shifting against the desk. "I think you're making things harder than they need to be. You could have had everything by now." A quiet breath. "You don't know what you're talking about." The stare that followed held confusion, not concern. Another buzz cut through the room. Greg. "Emily," he said, clipped. "Have you reviewed the contract? We need your signature by end of day." "I'm still considering." A pause. "We need commitment. If you're staying, you need to be fully aligned. Time's running out." The line went dead before pressure could turn into persuasion. Leela watched closely. "Still stuck?" "I don't know what to do." "Well, you don't have much time left." That part was obvious. She hesitated, then softened. "Look, whatever you decide, just decide." The advice landed hollow. The contract stayed open on the desk, its weight pressing down harder than expected. What had been signed was final. Binding. The inbox confirmed it. New projects, new directives, the first wave already rolling in. Nothing could be undone. A buzz cut through the stillness. "Mom, are you still mad at me?" The message sat there, bare and demanding. An answer she wanted, not one she was ready to hear. Fingers rubbed at tired eyes. Work had already taken everything I had. This was just another pull. "I'm fine. Busy." The reply barely left the screen before the phone rang. Lila. "Why are you avoiding Mom?" Her tone was sharp. "She's been asking about you all day." "Space," I said. "That's all." "You always need space," she fired back. "When are you going to stop acting like a victim?" Anger flared. The chair pushed back as I stood. "I'm not acting. I'm handling more than you realize." A pause. Then softer, almost impatient. "It just sounds like you want to stay miserable." That one landed. Harder than expected. Everything I wanted to say stayed locked away. The exhaustion, the sense of being trapped between expectations and obligations that never loosened. The call ended instead. The clock pulled focus. Time for the meeting. The office carried a different charge. Conversations dipped as I passed. Less than an hour in, Greg called me back. "Emily," he said, tone stripped of warmth, "we need to clarify your responsibilities." A folder slid across the desk. Pages stayed unread. "You've seen the direction we're moving in," he continued. "I need you leading the strategy. Fully." A nod came automatically. Opportunity wasn't the word. Demand fit better. "I understand," I said. "I'll handle it." Greg, back at the desk, the room felt smaller. Eyes lingered longer than usual. Fingers hovered over the keyboard, unmoving. Another buzz. "Mom again. Can we talk tonight?" The message tightened something in my chest. No answers waited on the other side of that conversation. But avoidance had run its course. The chair slid back, feet moved before doubt could catch up. The conference room swallowed the next few hours. Decisions stacked quickly, direction set without pause. Control wasn't part of the process. When it finally ended, nothing felt settled, only heavier. Greg's office passed in silence. The door stood open. A moment lingered. One step, one question away from asking for time, for adjustment, for mercy. That step never happened. The building doors closed behind me. The day pressed forward. The contract was signed, the path chosen, and whatever came next would not wait. It came up casually. That was the worst part. Morin mentioned Lila's name like it meant nothing, like it belonged naturally in the conversation. "She was already in the loop," Lauren said. "About your project, I mean. Guess she heard it through her contacts." The room stalled. "Lila?" The word came out too quickly. "What do you mean?" Lauren kept going, unaware. She knew some of the strategic stuff ahead of time. Small world, right? Nausea rose fast. Leela had known. Before the contract, before the meeting, before everything shifted. The walk back to my desk passed without awareness. One thought repeated, sharp and insistent. Answers. The call happened on the drive home. "Lila," I said, keeping my voice level by force, "why are people at my office saying you knew about the changes?" A pause, long enough to matter. "What are you talking about?" "You knew," I said. "You knew what was coming. Why didn't you tell me?" A laugh followed, thin, strained. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "My job isn't out of proportion." Another silence. Then defensiveness crept in. "I didn't think it was my place. You don't like people interfering." "That's what you tell yourself?" The grip tightened on the steering wheel. "You had information. You kept it. I didn't want to make things worse. By letting me walk in blind?" Her voice sharpened. "You're the one who turned down the promotion, not me." The hit landed clean. "So you just watched," I said, with all that insight. I didn't have all the answers, but you had more than I did. That truth stayed between us, heavy and unmoving. "I'm sorry," she said finally, quieter. "I didn't think it would explode like this." The call ended without resolution. The car kept moving. The silence afterward felt louder than the argument. The house was calm when I got home. Too calm. "Mom," I said from the doorway, "we need to talk." She turned, cautious. "About what?" "About Leela. About work." The explanation came out measured, controlled. How Leela knew. How she stayed quiet. Mom waved it off. "She didn't want to upset you." "That's not protection," I said. "That's control." "You're exaggerating." Fists clenched. She had the truth. I didn't. That matters. Her arms crossed. She didn't mean any harm. Intent wasn't the point. It never was. I turned away before the argument could settle into its familiar loop. "Emily," she called. The morning after the argument, something had shifted. Not relief, not clarity, just a hard line where patience used to be. Enough absorbing. Enough adjusting. At work, the first move was deliberate. A meeting request. Greg and 2 members of leadership. No explanation attached. When everyone settled in, the pulse in my chest stayed loud, but the voice didn't waver. "I've reviewed the new direction," I said, eyes on Greg. "I'm prepared to take on the responsibility, but not without authority." Silence followed. Not hostile, assessing. Greg leaned back slightly. "This role requires speed. There won't be room for hesitation." "I'm aware," I said, "which is why I won't operate under constant approval loops. If I'm accountable for outcomes, I need control over decisions." A glance passed between the others. This wasn't what they expected. "We need alignment," one of them said. "You'll have it," I replied, "but not micromanagement." Greg studied me for a moment longer than necessary, then a nod. "All right," he said. "We'll adjust the structure. You lead. Results will speak for themselves." "That's fair." The meeting ended cleanly. No congratulations, no warnings, just a quiet recalibration. The weight eased, not gone, but redistributed. The phone buzzed before the elevator reached the lobby. "Lila, Mom says you need to talk to her. This is getting out of hand." The screen went dark without a reply. The call happened on the drive home. "We need to talk," I said when Mom answered. "Now." A pause. Measured. Familiar. About what? About how decisions keep getting made for me. "I'm trying to help," she said immediately. "No," I replied. "You're trying to manage." Her breath caught. "You don't understand." "I understand exactly," I said. "I've let it happen. That part's on me." Silence stretched. "I didn't ask you to steer my career," I continued, "or filter information, or decide what I can handle." "I worry about you," she said, softer. "I always have." "I know," I said, "but worry doesn't give you control." Another pause. This one heavier. "I don't know if I can just step back," she said. "You don't have to like it," I replied. "You just have to respect it." The call ended without resolution. That was fine. Resolution wasn't the goal. The house felt different when I walked in. Not lighter, just quieter in a way that didn't demand anything. Nothing was fixed. Nothing was easy. But the lines were drawn. At work, decisions would no longer be handed down without question. At home, expectations would no longer run unchallenged. The cost was still unknown. So was the outcome. But the direction was no longer negotiable. The days after the contract settled into a strange rhythm. Work demanded more, but it wasn't what kept me awake. It was home. My mother and Leela noticed the change quickly. Missed calls unanswered. Explanations shortened. Decisions no longer deferred. They were used to directing the story. This version didn't include them the same way. One night, my mother asked me to come into the kitchen. Avoidance had worked until then. "Emily," she said, careful, controlled, "you've been distant. I don't understand what's going on. This isn't how we do things." I stayed where I was. "That's the problem. I can't keep doing things the same way." Her eyes tightened. "We've always wanted what's best for you." "You've wanted what you thought was best," I said, without asking. The words landed harder than expected. She stared at me like she was hearing a different language. Leela walked in before the silence could break. "What now?" "Emily's upset," my mother said, "because we're trying to help." I turned to Leela. "You knew about the changes at work before I did." She hesitated. Not denial, not honesty, something in between. I didn't think it mattered. It mattered to me. Mom stepped in quickly. This isn't helping. It is, I said. I'm done pretending it's fine. For the first time, neither of them interrupted. Not because they agreed, but because they didn't know how to redirect this version of the conversation. I'm not asking for approval, I said. I'm telling you how it's going to be. Leela crossed her arms. Then don't expect me to keep chasing you. I nodded once. That was enough. The next morning, the office felt different. Not lighter, clearer. I sat down and got to work without waiting for instruction. When Greg called later, his tone held something new. We're seeing progress, he said. Keep pushing. I will. No reassurance followed. None was needed. That afternoon, I signed up to volunteer at a local shelter. No announcement, no justification, just a decision I'd been postponing too long. Home stayed tense, conversations stayed short. But nothing pulled at me the way it used to. Control didn't arrive all at once. It showed up in smaller ways, where I said no, where I didn't explain, where I didn't rush to smooth things over. Nothing was fixed, but nothing felt borrowed anymore. That was enough to keep going.